Good noon, fellow Jaycees and ladies and gentlemen. Our guest of honor and speaker today is a member of the House of Representatives and has been or has served for 6 straight years, having been elected beginning 1992, 95, 98, 2004, 2007, and 2010, with one of the longest record of service in the history of the House of Representatives. During his 6 terms, Congressman Roy has had a perfect 100% attendance, no absence in all the sessions of Congress. Senator Roy has finished his BS major in mathematics and operation analysis, acquired through the United States Naval Academy at Annapolis. He was selected company commander, a high position in the Brigade of Midshipmen, and he was a brigade boxing champion. The gossip is Pacquiao has been requesting for his mentorship, but the condition of Senator Roy is he must first fight Mayweather so that Roy can mentor him properly. Congressman Roy also served as the best Postmaster General of the Philippines for 3 years, where he received the most prestigious civilian award. I think all of you know what I mean by the most prestigious, because it is a Jaycee activity, 10 outstanding young men of the POIM. Equally important, Congressman Roy also served for 5 years as a member of the Board of Trustees of the St. Luke's Medical Center. Lastly, but equally important, Congressman Roy is a very active member and a pillar of the Rotary Club of Manila. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to introduce Congressman Roy Goles.
Thank you very much, Jaycee Senator Boy and Rotary Boy. Thank you. Maraming salamat. I have so many friends here. I wouldn't dare mention anyone dahil baka mag-roll call dito, no? Thank you for inviting me to this Makati Jaycee Senate meeting. I understand there are regular younger Jaycees also. Thank you. I'm so happy that the venue is here in St. Luke's Medical Center for 2 reasons. One, together with Robert, I was a member of the board of directors. Our chief of St. Luke's many years ago, before I became a congressman. So this is like a homecoming for me, but that was in Quezon City. The other reason I'm happy that we are in St. Luke's, baka may masabi ako rito na ma-high blood kayo. Magalit kayo sabihin ko, yes, malapit lang ang emergency. Binanggit din si Manny Pacquiao, hindi naman sa nagyayabang si Manny Pacquiao, kung nagsagupa kami during my prime, I would have knocked him out in maybe about less than a minute. Kasi nung time na yun, mga 3 years old lang siya. Let's talk about, Boy asked me to talk about China, Philippines, South China Sea. So I'll be covering China, this issue, on the basis of economics, geopolitics, security. So let me talk about China first. China is not actually a homogeneous country. A lot of people are saying China has not invaded other countries, but if you look at the geography of China, you will see that about half of it is Han-Chinese, and then the rest are not Han-Chinese, like this violet would be the Tibetan Chinese, and then this orange here would be the Xinjiang, and many of them are the Uyghur people who used to be in another part, who are ethnically connected in another part. So you can see that China became this big because the other parts invaded the rest of China. So I guess it's a question of conquest. And economically, we look at China as a country that's becoming very wealthy. But if you look at the per capita income profile of China, the wealthier ones are along the coastline, this bluish area. And all the rest, the more brown it is, the poorer the regions become, as you can see from this diagram here, where the brown would be about 40 to 50% below the average income. And poverty in China, of course, is amazing. From 26% poverty level in 2007 to only 7% by 2012. And right now, I think it's about 4.1%, even less. Much less than our more than 20% level in the Philippines. In terms of gross domestic product, ito yung GDP ng China, 2006, 2,700. Now, the total GDP is this is 2.7 trillion. Now it's 10 trillion US dollars. That's the GDP of China. The Philippines, ito naman yung per capita natin, 1,884, now 2,635. This is GDP per capita of the US, 51,000. Now, this is something that probably not many people are aware. In 1967, this was my first year in the Naval Academy. That's why I use this as a basis. The GDP per capita of the Philippines was $207. Almost double, more than double the GDP of China during that time. And in fact, our GDP was 4 times the GDP of Indonesia, and higher than the GDP per capita of Korea. But of course now, 2015, our GDP is a little less than $3,000, while China has gone up to almost $8,000. So you can imagine how much that has changed the economic strength of China, both on a per capita basis and on a gross GDP basis. This is the per capita income of the US compared with China. The US is still a long way, much higher than the per capita GDP of China. US GDP is about $51,000. That's the per capita GDP, while China per capita is, as I mentioned, still less than $8,000. So it's still a long way when we compare China's economy on a per capita GDP basis. Now, China aims to become the hegemon. In other words, aims to become #1. What is my basis for this? Of course, in most of the geopolitical gatherings that I've attended on an international basis, that is the projection of everybody, that China is aiming to become #1, to become the hegemon. The hegemon right now is the United States, and I base this on a seminal book. This is a very interesting book, The 100-Year Marathon, authored by Michael Pillsbury. Michael Pillsbury used to be in favor of China. In fact, in the 70s and even in the early 90s, during the time of Bill Clinton, he was one of those who pushed for the membership of China to the WTO, and that triggered the prosperity of China, on the belief that a prosperous China would be a more gentle China, a less aggressive China, like what happened in the case of Japan, in the case of Germany. Now, Michael Pillsbury has the theory that China wants to become #1 in a very aggressive way. And incidentally, Michael Pillsbury is one of the advisors of now President-elect Bill Clinton. So I'm sorry, Donald Trump. 20 years behind tayo. Donald Trump, and he is going to play, in my thinking, a very critical role in the administration of President Trump. And here, if you read the book, Pillsbury cited a number of items that, in his opinion, are the reasons why, I'd like to go over this very quickly, why China it's very obvious that China wants to be number one. And these are the strategies, for example, manipulating opponents' advisors. Their philosophy is be patient, wait for decades or longer to achieve victory. And stealing opponents' ideas, technology, copyright, etc. Military might is not a critical factor for winning a long-term competition. It's the economy. Recognize that the hegemon, they don't want to be that aggressive because the hegemon, which is the U.S., might engage in a counter-attack prematurely. So this is a very interesting book. I suggest for those who are China watchers to read this book very thoroughly. China is a big country. China is a big country, but China is a very vulnerable country. And what is the reason for this? It suffers from a very vulnerable geography. So let's look at the map. This is the South China Sea. And if you look at China, China is surrounded by many countries. It is surrounded by the Indian Ocean, by India, by Vietnam, by the Philippines, by the US. It is a big country, but it has a very short coastline. It is trapped inside the South China Sea. It is very difficult for China to break out. It has to deal with so many choke points. And you know, in geopolitics and also in naval power, I'd like to cite Sea Power Studies Alfred Thayer Mahan. And the reason for this is that because of its vulnerable geography, surrounded in many directions by many countries, its sea lines of communications are very vulnerable. SLOCs, that is a term used when it comes to naval warfare. Sea lines of communications, it can be, these are routes between ports used for trade, logistics, and naval forces. It is generally used in reference to the naval operations to ensure that SLOCs are open or in times of conflict as a hostile act to close them. In other words, to blockade them. In this particular case, China is suffering from what they call the Malacca dilemma. What is the Malacca dilemma? Its trade routes will eventually have to pass through the Malacca. And as you can see here, 80% of China's crude oil imports transit the Straits of Malacca through the Indian Ocean, and it can be blockaded here. And if that happens, that is going to choke the economy of China. So it must respond to the choke points. And what is its response? This is the so-called China's string of pearls strategy. China's string of pearls strategy. It is a network of military and commercial facilities, alliances, ports, etc., that run through several countries, starting from the China area, all the way to the Thailand area here, and then through the Malacca, then out into the Andaman area, then Myanmar, you have Bangladesh, and then Sri Lanka, and of course it passes through Pakistan. The countries that I mentioned are countries that are friendly to China, Pakistan, and then all the way to Djibouti. This is what they call the string of pearls strategy, in order to counteract the possible blockade in the Malacca Strait, and in order to counteract the dominance of India in the Indian Ocean. Not to mention the presence of the US Navy in the Diego Garcia area. So China is gradually building up that string of pearls as a way of counteracting the possibility of it being blockaded. And very recently, there is the Chinese Navy flotilla that arrived in Karachi, in Pakistan, and they opened a major port there, and this is an area where China has invested, I understand, China is investing something like $50 billion in the Pakistan